So I'll be completely honest, I'm not actually sure how many people will be looking for this kind of video. Baseball stereotypically tends to attract a slightly older fan, stats nerds, sticklers for the rules, that sort of thing. Apologies if I've just offended any baseball fans. So to me, it seemed as if the MLB The Show would attract a gamer looking for a more realistic simulation type experience. But a lot of the MLB The Show content I've seen is actually being kind of fantasy style franchises, Diamond Dynasty and the like. So if you're that kind of player, then this video probably isn't for you. But if, like me, you like to create those hyper-realistic, true-to-life simulation-style experiences on sports games like MLB The Show, then watch on, because I'm going to go through every setting and slider that you need to do just that. Now, there are 3 primary principles that we're looking to implement in these settings and sliders. The first is that we're trying to balance realism with fun, but we are leaning slightly towards realism. That's mainly because, to a large extent, I think just the more realistic the game is, the more fun the game is. However, you do still need to consider the enjoyment for the player as well. The second principle is that we want to maximize player ratings over stick skills as far as possible. And this relates back to that first principle, because maximizing player ratings is going to maximize the realism. But again, we do need to consider how fun and enjoyable the game actually is to play. And the final principle that we are trying to implement is broadcast style presentation. So we'll be looking to keep the screen as clean as possible, and we'll be looking to utilize things like camera angles that replicate a real life game broadcast as much as possible. Now, the best place to start is the settings, some of which are going to be personal preference, others of which are going to be more necessary to creating that realistic simulation style experience. And a nice easy one to start off with is the gameplay style, which you want to set to simulation. Now, one of the good things about MLB The Show compared to other sports games is that there aren't a lot of moving parts. It's basically just hitting and pitching. So the difficulty is basically personal preference, and the sliders will apply and will work the same regardless. This certainly isn't the case for other games like Madden, for example, NBA 2K and the like. So you can adjust this to your ability level. If you want to lower it to All-Star, you can. If you want to raise it to Legend, you can. However, I think Hall of Fame provides the most realistic and the most balanced results. So that would be the difficulty that I would recommend. Tutorial tips, turn them off. If you really want them on, I guess you can have them on. And the same for new feature tips as well. But that will do it for difficulty, and you will then want to flick across to decisions. Now, this is the first important and probably fairly controversial one. You want auto fielding on. So this means fielding will be taken out of your hands. The CPU will field for you. Now, this is one of those times where we do have to try and balance realism with enjoyment, and you very much want to lean towards realism here. So there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that fielding isn't even really enjoyable. It's actually kind of annoying. It's kind of a chore. So to have that taken out of our hands and simulated instead, we're really not missing out on much. And secondly, on auto fielding, we're not going to have those instances where we just either press the wrong button or for some inexplicable reason fail to field a ball that an MLB player should field 100% of the time. So we're going to get more realistic results. However, having auto fielding on doesn't necessarily mean there are never going to be mistakes. There are never going to be errors. We can address this firstly in the sliders, and we can address it by having auto throwing off. Most, not all, but most errors come on the throw rather than actually fielding the ball. So if we keep auto fielding on but auto throwing off, we're probably still going to be imparting a good number of errors through our throws rather than through the defender actually fielding the ball. And again, we can adjust the errors in the sliders as well. So auto fielding on, auto throwing off. This is going to give you the best, most realistic, most balanced results. And again, we're balancing realism with the enjoyment here. Auto base running to some extent is personal preference. I like to have it off just so I can have complete control of my base runners. Maybe there's a decision that I would make that the CPU wouldn't, and I can have control of that. You can have this on though if you would prefer. Auto sliding, the same. I like to have this one on, but you could easily have this off if you would prefer. Auto infielder jump and dive reactions, I certainly have to on, and that would be part of the auto fielding. Warm-up relievers is very much personal preference. I like to have it on, again, just to lean into the realism. Relievers warm up in real life. I like to have my relievers warm up in the game as well. You can turn that off. Doesn't make a huge difference. And then I also have auto defensive shift on. Personal preference again. You can turn this off if you know what you're doing in terms of shifts. So onto the rules here in the general settings section. Umpire accuracy you want on personalized. So this will change the strike zone calls, change decisions and things like that based on which umpire is behind the plate. So you get a personalized experience from game to game rather than it just being the MLB average of strike zone calls, and rather than it being the exact correct decision each time, which is what you would get on perfect. So this just adds a little more variety and a little more diversity depending on who your umpiring team is. And again, that's what real players would deal with in real life, and coaches, etc. Pitch clock you certainly want on. Injuries, ejections, balks you certainly want on. Umpire close call plays is fairly similar to the umpire accuracy for things like whether a player is safe on first. You can have that on average or you can have it on perfect. Perfect, it will be the correct decision every time. If the runner is out, they will always be called out. However, if you have it on average, then sometimes the umpire will be correct. Sometimes you can challenge and you can win the challenge because the calls aren't always necessarily accurate. And again, that's what happens in real life. Have it on average as a result. Check swing appeals, personal preference. I like to have it on. Just adds a little bit of drama here and there. And then finally to the miscellaneous section of the general settings. CPU pitch delay, I just have it on normal. This is the time that pitchers take between pitches. Post-game autosave doesn't matter, completely up to you. Player lock, if you want to utilize that, you can set those settings yourself. And then finally, you want the wind on. Of course, if we're trying to create a realistic experience, turn the wind on. Wind is a thing. Wind exists. But that'll do it for the general settings. And if we go across to control, again, we're probably going to get a couple in here that are, I think, fairly important, but could potentially be fairly controversial. Base running interface doesn't matter too much. I just have it on analog select. Swing input, I have on buttons. You can have this on analog flick stride, which will be controlling it with the right stick. I think for the best and most realistic, most balanced experience, you want buttons and you want directional. Now, these two settings combined are very much going to lead into that second principle that we talked about at the beginning of the video. We are trying to maximize the ratings of the players rather than the stick skills of the user. Directional does just that. If you're using something like zone, where you have the PCI, that's far too reliant. It places far too much emphasis on the stick skills of the user, and a user can use a poor batter and still generate good results. We don't want that. We want bad batters to have a low average, to not hit home runs, and well, not to not hit home runs, but to rarely hit home runs. And we can achieve that much better on directional. So with buttons and directional, the amount of impact you can have as the user is pretty much through the timing. You have to press the button at the right time, and that's the amount of influence you have over the results of the at-bat. And again, here we are trying to balance the realism with the enjoyment. We're not just simulating. You want to play the game. That's why you're on MLB The Show rather than Out of the Park Baseball, for example. We want to play the game. We want to enjoy actually experiencing the game of baseball. So we want to be able to influence the outcome of plays, of at-bats to some extent, but we want to minimize that and not just completely override the ratings of the players. And again, this is what buttons and directional does. Now, directional camera shift and directional hitting indicator, this is very much principle 3. We're trying to keep a clean screen, so we want to turn both of these off. So with these on, when you pull to the left, for example, the camera will shift slightly left. If you push right, the camera will shift slightly right. And then at the same time, small arrows will appear on the screen, left, right, up, down. Turn these off, those things will disappear and will not happen. Now, because we're on directional, all of the PCI settings will be locked out. So you don't need to worry about any of these. It's got the little padlock on the right-hand side. All of that is to do with the PCI for zone whereas we are using directional. Guess pitch, I turn off. And then vibration, this is very, very important. Arguably the most important setting, I think. Vibration, you want to turn off. This is under the offense settings, but this is also going to apply to pitching, which we're going to get to in just a second. So vibration off. The reason we want vibration off is because we're going to be utilizing pinpoint pitching. However, again, we're trying to balance realism with enjoyment. Again, we don't want to just simulate the games. If we were leaning into maximizing the players' ratings as much as possible, we'd probably use just classic. We'd aim with the left stick. We'd just press A. That's going to maximize the players' ratings, but it's boring. It's not enjoyable. You don't have enough of an impact on the plays and the at-bats. Pinpoint is a really, really good, really fun, really balanced pitching mechanic that we can utilize. However, it's a little bit too easy with all of the settings at default. So what we're going to do is turn the pitching ball marker off, and we've turned vibration off in the previous settings. We are going to turn the accuracy chevrons off as well as the catch position indicator. So what this means is that not only are you going to have to make an accurate input with the right stick according to whichever pitch you choose with that pinpoint pitching interface, but you're also going to have to aim your pitch entirely by feel with the left stick. There are going to be no indicators to tell you where that pitch is going. There's going to be no baseball in the strike zone that moves around as you move the left stick. There's going to be no vibrations to let you know when you're getting to the edge or outside of that strike zone. It's going to be entirely based on feel. So this does a couple of things. Firstly, it's really fun. So we are maximizing the enjoyment for the player. It's a challenge. It takes a while to get used to. But secondly, it's also incredibly realistic. One of the least realistic things about MLB The Show, just as default, straight out of the box, is the number of walks that you get. You almost never see walks. This is one way, just one, we will get to more in just a bit, but this is one way to facilitate more walks in at-bats. Walks are pretty common in real life. You almost never see them in MLB The Show. But if you don't know where you're aiming, you're going to be walking a lot more batters. The only other one we have here in defense is throw canceling. Have this on. You can cancel a throw if you decide you don't want to make it. You can switch which base you're throwing to, that kind of thing. Player lock, like we said, not going to be utilizing player lock almost at all. If you want to use player lock, you can determine those settings yourself. So finally, here in the settings, we want to adjust the cameras. And again, like we said at the beginning of the video, we want to replicate a real life broadcast. So we want broadcast for pitching, for offense, and for defense. This is going to give you camera angles and cutscenes like you would see in a real life baseball broadcast. Hitting, ideally, we would have on broadcast just to maximize that principle even further. It's too difficult to hit on broadcast. I like this on catcher. Again, this is pretty much personal preference. Put it wherever you're most comfortable. I think catcher gives you the most encompassing view and the most kind of broadcast-ish angle, even though it isn't something that you would ever see on TV. And finally, here in the settings, there are a couple of things we can turn off in the display settings that will enable that clean screen approach a little bit further. Fielding aids is one, set that to off. CPU pitch suggestion, you can set to off. In-game notifications, this is kind of live updates of scores and things like that. You would see that in a real life broadcast, so have that on. Strike zone, set to on. You can turn this off if you really want to. Of course, you don't always see the strike zone on a broadcast. They do flash it up occasionally. However, I think it's best to have it on at all times. Hot zones always preview, so you will see the hot zones for the very first pitch of the at-bat, and then they will disappear. Pitch info, you can turn off. Confidence and energy bars, I like to have them on. Again, if you want to maximize the clean screen to the absolute nth degree, you can turn these off, but it's useful to know how confident, how full of stamina your pitcher is, so I leave those on. Pitch feedback, leave on. However, batter controls display set to minimal. Swing feedback can be turned off off the wall ribbon can be turned off. Player name display can be turned off. Base running diamond is similar to the confidence and energy bars. Turning it off would obviously clean the screen up even further. But again, it's useful information to have. It's not like you're actually on the field. It's not like you can turn around and look at the bases. It's useful to know who is where at all times. Scorebar display, obviously you want on. And then these things don't matter too much. This is for road to the show. So all of those things obviously aren't going to impact gameplay too much at all. All of them are personal preference. It's how clean do you want the screen, basically. Again, I try and balance realism with enjoyment. I like it to be as clean as possible to replicate that broadcast style presentation. However, I want to actually be successful in the game, so there is some information I need to know in order to achieve that. So that's everything from the gameplay settings. There are a couple of things you can adjust in presentation settings as well. So presentation mode set to broadcast. Pitch selection cameras you want on pitching only. Pitch selection camera focus put on all. High leverage pitch selection camera frequency. Battle walk up on. In-game ticker on. Closed captioning off. Same as the previous settings. These are all personal preference. These, I think, give the best balance between presentation, creating drama, getting the information you need. And then finally, audio and video is, of course, completely up to you. And then mode specific, again, up to you as well. This isn't so much about the gameplay, but about how much control you want over things off the pitch or off the field, off the diamond. I like to set all of these to manual. I like to have as much control over my franchise as possible. So that's it for the settings. Now on to the sliders. MLB The Show, unfortunately, present their sliders in the least intuitive and least user-friendly way possible. You get a slider and that's it. But basically the slider goes from 0 to 10. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can have 0 to 10. They are all at 5 at default. And so basically the easiest way to do this is dynamic difficulty sensitivity is set at 5. We're going to go through and I'm going to tell you how much above or below 5 it is. I will also put each of the numerical values for these sliders down in the description as well. And potentially I'll even create in fact, I probably will. I'll create a screen with the numerical values for each of these sliders as well and put it just after this segment. So you can see all of the sliders and their numerical values and you can input them nice and easily. So as I said, dynamic difficulty sensitivity is just set at 5. This doesn't matter too much. We are just on Hall of Fame, but that's our barometer. So human contact is +1. That's at 6. Human power is -1 at 4. Human timing is also at 6. Foul frequency is at 5. Solid hits is at 7. So these are all hitting sliders and these should give you the best balance in terms of hitting home runs, hitting pop-ups, hitting foul balls, lining out to the right fielder, those kinds of things. The next set of sliders are pitching sliders. And these are very much going to combine with what we set up earlier in terms of the pinpoint pitching with the no vibration and those sorts of things. So we want human starter stamina all the way up at 8. We want the reliever stamina at 7. We then want pitcher control at 4, and we want consistency at 2. So these sliders combined with the pitching settings that we established earlier are going to give you the best balance of throwing the ball exactly where you want to. When you get a perfect input on pinpoint, for example, for slightly missing your spot if you're just off on your input, and for wildly missing your spot if it's a really bad input. And again, this is going to generate a much higher number of walks. You'll get a realistic number of walks using those pitching settings combined with these pitching sliders. As for the CPU, you want contact at 5, you want power at 6, you want timing at 5, you want foul frequency at 4, you want solid hits at 5, and then again, you want 8 and 7 for staminas, and you want 4 and 2 for control and consistency. We do have an additional slider for the CPU pitches and the strike frequency, which you want at 4. Manager hook determines how quickly a pitcher will be hooked and replaced by a reliever if they're not performing particularly well. This is set at 7. CPU pickoffs you want at 5. Fastball and off-speed pitch speeds are personal preference to an extent. These you can also combine with the difficulty. If you're finding the game slightly too easy or slightly too hard, but moving up or going down a difficulty is too much of a step, I would try adjusting these. If you think say you're on Hall of Fame, but going up to Legendary makes the game too difficult and you can never win, stick on Hall of Fame, but bump the fastball's pitch speed up slightly, and do the same for the off speed. You can also create more of a disparity between fastballs and off speed pitches if you would like. So you can bump the fastball pitch speed up 1 and move the off speed down 1. That's going to create more of a disparity between the speeds of the pitches, and it's going to make it slightly easier to pick up whether it is a fastball or whether it's a changeup, a slider, that kind of thing. But personally, I have it at 5 for fastballs and 4 for off speed. Now, something else we mentioned earlier was auto fielding, and we said that it's not going to result in 100% fielding percentage for every single player in the league. And again, that's going to be A, because we're going to be making throwing errors, but B, because we can bump these sliders up slightly. So we've got fielding errors for infield and outfield up at 6. We've got throwing errors for the infield up at 6 as well. So these are going to slightly increase the frequency that errors occur in your games. Even though we're using auto fielding, you should see a realistic number of errors. Throwing errors for the outfield is actually down 1 at 4. The same for fielder run speed, that's down at 4. Fielder reaction is down at 2. Arm strength for the infield and outfield is just at default 5. Base runner speed is at 4. Base runner steal ability is up at 6. And base runner steal frequency is at 5. So base runners you want at 4, 6, and 5. Wind is at 5. However, this is one of 2 kind of variable sliders that I'll talk about more in just a second. Gameplay injury frequency is also set at 5. But simulator injury frequency is all the way up at 9. And the final slider here is trade frequency, which I currently have set at 1. But this, combined with the wind, is one of 2 variable sliders that you might want to adjust. So wind, firstly, if you want a really realistic approach to the game, what you can do is adjust this slider for each game that you play. Obviously, having it set at 5, it's just going to give you one kind of static impact of the wind. Perhaps it's a particularly windy day, there's a hurricane in the area, bump this up to 8 or 9, for example. It's going to be even more windy, the ball is going to carry or it's going to hold up in the wind, depending on, which way it's blowing. Maybe it's a particularly calm summer day, you can drop this down to 1 or 2. So this could be a variable slider if you wanted it to be. Trade frequency, I would definitely have as a variable slider, and I would be adjusting this throughout the season. So early in the season, I would have this down at 1. You see very, very few trades through the first couple of months of the season. However, as you get closer and closer to the trade deadline, I would start inching this up. And in the final month approaching the trade deadline, I would certainly have it up around 5. As you get kind of the week of the trade deadline, I would have this right up around 8 or 9. And then as the trade deadline is passed, I would bump it way down to 1 again until we get to the off season, where then again I would probably have it somewhere around the 7 or 8 mark. We see most trades obviously around the trade deadline during the off season. So I would have it up around 7 or 8 at those times, and I would have it way down at 1 or 2 at pretty much all other times. And then again, you can kind of inch it up towards the 7 or 8 mark as you approach those different points of the season. So there you have it. Every single setting and slider you need to create a hyper-realistic simulation broadcast style experience for your franchise mode on MLB The Show. I have dropped in a couple of clips and highlights of the things I've been talking about throughout the video. But if you do want to see the settings and sliders in action a little more, I'll put some slightly more extended gameplay at the end of the video And I do also stream MLB The Show from time to time. I currently have a 2025 New York Mets franchise going. Juan Soto just hits nothing but bombs, already in double-digit home runs in the early portion of the season. So check out a stream from time to time if you see me live. If you play Madden, College Football 25, I have sliders and settings for those games on the channel too. And there will be settings and sliders for NBA 2K25 coming shortly as well. But that is a mammoth project. The settings and sliders for that game are extensive. So maybe on the channel already. If not, keep checking back. It will be dropping soon. But that'll do it for this one. Hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy.
Welcome from the home of the New York Mets, Citi Field in Queens. Major League Baseball on tap. It's the St. Louis Cardinals going up against the New York Mets. John Shambi on play-by-play. Chris Singleton providing the color and singing the big bat in the lineup so far this year. Juan Soto, always exciting to see him in action, and it seems like he consistently finds a way to impact the game.
Yeah, Boog, it's offensively at the plate, defensively when he's on the bases. And this guy's just a heads-up player, but he's got so much talent, and he makes the most of that. I believe it starts with his preparation because you never see him give away an at-bat. He's had his ups and downs in his career as his ERA is just over 4, but this is a guy that's not afraid. He's going to take the ball, he's going to go out there and give it his best.
Kicks and fires. Cut on and miss. Struck him out. Now one away.
Oh, there's a small sigh of relief right there. I mean, just to keep that speed off the base paths. It's not just the pitcher. It's other guys that have to think about it. From your infielders have to think about that runner potentially stealing, but also be in position to make a play. As an outfielder, you're thinking about a base hit to the outfield. I got to get to it quickly to try to keep this guy from taking an extra base. So I think everyone just a little more relaxed that he didn't reach base.
Kicks and deals. Swings through that one out in front that time.
No ball. 2 strikes.
Down to the dirt, swing and a miss. Gets to it onto first. Gets the out, 2 down after the strikeout.
He had him out in front, which isn't easy to do against a hitter like this, known for using the entire field. Just couldn't sit back long enough on that one.
2 outs, base is empty. Alec Burleson now at the plate. And first offering is fouled off. 2 outs, base is empty. Minaya, 32 years old, a former first-round pick back in 2013. Next offering is in for a strike.
Well, don't expect too many more high fastballs. This is a good sinker ball pitcher, and sometimes they can make mistakes trying to pitch up in the zone. Look for him to stay down around the knees to be effective.
The next offering misses. Now 1-2.
I don't think he was trying to miss by that much in an 0-2 count. Just tried to overthrow that pitch.
Next offering is down low.
Good spot there, but didn't get the strike at the knees and doesn't seem too convinced by the call out there on the mound as he tries to get a better sense of the umpire strike zone.
The 2-2. Keeps the at bat going with a foul ball. The 2-2. Clobbered to right field, way back, gone. A solo shot, and just like that, they're out front. It's 1-0.
Boog, his plan was to hit the ball hard, and he was going to figure out the rest later. You can't argue with those results. Knew what pitch he wanted to hit, spit on some other pitches in this at bat, was very patient, and it paid off.
2 outs, nobody on. And next is the Cardinals' 4-hitter, Nolan Gorman. And there's the strike. Next pitch is downstairs.
1-1.
2 down, base is empty, but 1 run across, and we're just getting started here in the top of the first. That one pushed to the left and foul. And that's a base hit, and that extends the inning.
Well, a swing like that can help you come out of the struggle. We saw the numbers coming into the ball game, but all he's trying to do at this point is help his team win.
Runner at first with 2 away. Here's Nolan Arenado. In there at the knees. On the ground, right side. He takes it himself to the bag, and that'll do it. 1 scores in the inning, coming on this solo home run. It's an early 1-0 lead. You're watching Mets baseball on the show NYC. Back here in Queens, and starting this one, Sonny Gray. Singy, he's looking at a nice little milestone here.
Well, he's been sitting on 99 career wins. I think he's got it in him for 100 today. Excited to be in the chair and watch him work.
And stepping in for New York, Francisco Lindor. Pretty amazing athlete this guy is. Power and speed, quite a threat. I mean, you're talking about someone that could steal you a bag and go deep. Bo Jackson, anyone?
He's like Mike Trout. You figure whatever you put in his hand, whether it's a bat, whether it's a golf club, whether it's a basketball, he can do it and get it done. And a rare talent, so much fun to watch.
And that's in the dirt.
2-0.
And that's off the inside edge. Ball 3.
Well, he's so great about hitting the ball the other way. He gets those arms extended. So right there, just trying to straighten him up a little bit so he doesn't have as much outside plate coverage.
That one misses, so a leadoff walk.
It's tough after falling behind a hitter, 2 balls and no strikes, but now at least he gets a fresh start against a new batter, but he needs to get back into the strike zone and start pitching with conviction.
Juan Soto now, tapped in front of the plate, gathers and throws to first. They get the out on Soto.
The designated hitter.
Here's a Mets lineup now. Batting second, a really important guy for them, Juan Soto.
Well, these days we know teams, they put a game plan together for every hitter in a lineup. But a guy like this, they circle him, make sure he doesn't beat you. So they put in a little extra time and effort on how they're going to approach him. He can be a huge difference maker when he's hot. So it's going to be fun to see how they try to work him right here. Well, strike one is so critical in a bat like this with a real threat at the plate looking to do damage.
Just missed.
Hitter's got some good opposite field power. What I like about something being hit to the right side into the outfield is that the base runner at second has a very good read and can determine whether or not he can score on that base hit.
Next one misses. 2-1. Gray, one of the best strikeout pitchers in the game, and that certainly is a benefit to him when he's in a spot like this. Man at second. Inside, and it hit him.
Boo, you have any memorable hit-by pitches yourself? Maybe high school, college?
No, but I almost did get decapitated by a foul ball at Old Tiger Stadium. Pete Alonso, the next to hit, takes ball 1.
Yeah, if you're going to be in the game in high-leverage situations, you've got to be able to get the swing and miss and put hitters away.
2 on, 1 out. And that one fouled off. Here's a 1-1. Out towards right center field. No trouble here. Puts it away for the out. And there's 2 away. So first and second with 2 outs. And now the catcher comes up to him. Francisco Alvarez. Pitch misses inside. 1-0. Lindor, the lead runner at second. Vientos on at first with 2 down. And fouled off. This one blasted the other way, down the line, and it's a foul ball. Two on, 2 outs. Swing and a miss, struck him out, and that will end the inning.
He's in a tough spot, had to make a great pitch, did it, got the strikeout, gets out of the jam. Clearly, he's happy with those results.